First of all, thank you so much, everyone, for coming for the first ever Borderless Summit. The idea behind this Borderless Summit is very simple. We want to make it easier for everyone in crypto to talk to each other. Although crypto is everywhere, we did notice that there's huge difference in between how things are done in the East and the West. And SynFutures is right in the middle of that. We're based in Asia. We know the local communities, local users, local KOLs, local talents, local builders. And at the same time, we're very fortunate to be one of the very few protocols who get the backers from the best investor from both the West and the East, including Pantera, Polychain, Dragonflies, Framework, Standard Crypto, and in the East, Hashkey, IOSG, etc. So we realized that it would be a privilege for us to help bridge the communication between the East and the West. And these realizations become the catalyst for this series of Borderless Summit. So with that, let's dive into the world of memecoin today. It's a topic that captivated both the East and West audience, transcending the geographical boundary and as well injecting a little bit of fun into our discussions. So let's start the day, start this summit, and enjoy, have a great time debating, learning, and discussing. So I'll introduce to you our MC Selenas for the introductions and the welcome for the first panels of speakers.
Thank you, Rachel. There's a little video we prepared. Welcome. Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the Borderless Summit. First and foremost, we'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our diamond sponsor, Chaos Labs and Ring Protocols, for their generous support. We'd also like to thank our community sponsor, DAppOS and Tomo, who have played a crucial role in making this event possible. We are incredibly fortunate to have some of the brightest minds and most influential voices in the crypto industry today. Our esteemed speakers come from a very diverse backgrounds and bring a wealth of knowledge and experiences to their discussions. Their insights will provide us with a deeper understanding of the nuanced drivers and opportunities of the meme revolutions. All right, so let's kick off our first panel series, Market Making Long Tail Asset. Our moderator for the first panel will be Wenxin from BD team at Kronos Research. And our panelists will include Ivaylo, co-founder from RavenDAO. Please be seated. Alain, head of BD at GSR. Stef, VP of Market Making at Keyrock. Ruben, head of BD at Flow Traders. Is Wenxin. They'll be sharing their experiences and insight on the intricate process of market making for long tail assets. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Hi. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Wenxin. I'm on the BD side for Kronos Research. We are crypto native market maker as well as a trading house. We also have the asset management arm and as well as the venture investment. business. So, very excited to be here today with our impressive lineup of speakers. So to get us started, so why don't everyone just give a brief intro about yourself and your company? Start from Ivaylo.
Hello. Can you guys all hear me well? Good stuff. So my name is Ivaylo Kirilov. I'm a co-founder of RavenDAO, and we are also a crypto-native market maker and doing all types of trading. Yeah. Hand over to you on my left.
Alain is my name. I lead in Europe the BD at GSR. GSR is the oldest, longest running crypto-native market maker, founded in 2013.
Stef, Keyrock, market making since 2017, on and off chain, liquidity provision, on and off chain, oversee our market making business.
Great. Ruben, Flow Traders. Flow Traders itself is a multi-asset market maker, focusing both on traditional markets as well as crypto asset markets. Been around since 2004, moved over to crypto around 2017. And what really makes us unique is that on one end, we are a publicly listed entity, we face all the Bitcoin ETF issuers. But on the other end, I'm having here a panel about long-term asset market making. So it's really nice to be in both sides of the story. So yeah, very excited to speak here today.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here with us today. So we're going to talk a lot about market making for long-term assets, especially meme coins. So to get us started, so we obviously know as market making for crypto assets is already a challenge, but market making for long-term assets can be, challenge for a different level. So what would be your considerations when you're entering this market as a market maker? So anyone want to go first?
Yeah, I'm happy to take it. I think, the dynamics of long-term asset market making are different, but it comes down to the same principles. In the end, what matters is market confidence, consumer confidence, and that's, as a market maker, you really have an impact in that sense. So as long as the market maker is there providing depth, providing the spread, the market can grow, the project can concentrate on what they're best at. And yeah, that's the key part to it, really.
Okay. Anyone else want to contribute? Maybe Stef or Alan?
Should I go first? I mean, obviously agree with him. I think one of the big challenges generally in crypto asset or digital asset is that often compared to, let's say, other financial assets, the market is not yet that developed if the asset becomes more or less liquid or tradable, let's put it that way. And that leads to often just a one-way street, what means like most people are moving from like a crypto state to a non-crypto state, so they're selling that. And when we basically go out of the tails, that's a much bigger risk. So it's going to be very hard to do the inventory management and the risk management about that because it's not a two-way flow, which you would see like on an ETF or an equity market.
Yeah, definitely completely agree with that. I think, the illiquidity is always, the key risk there. How about, what's your view, Stef?
Yeah, I mean, also when it comes to long tail assets, they're typically not being exchanged on either top tier exchanges or centralized exchanges of that matter. So not only are you have to take into account, trading risks, the opportunity cost of capital, etc. You have to look at the counterparty risk. You'd have to look at exchange products that are being created in order to also trade and manage your risk accordingly. So typically these are assets that don't have any type of derivative markets there. So it makes things more complex. It goes back to, let's say, the old school way of providing liquidity on both sides of the book, which ends up resulting into some inefficiencies for you to manage that risk. And especially when it comes to then, doing market making as a service in collaboration with token issuers, it's a very, very important conversation to have. Lots of education is required, and you need to manage expectations on what is possible and what is not. Like you're not going to expect 1 basis point spreads on a lot of these assets, and it's important for people to realize that.
Yeah, definitely echo on that. I think sometimes the management of expectations is very important in this market as well. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with the rest of the panelists here. As one of them rightfully mentioned, is very similar to trading normal assets like blue chips, but there are other considerations to take into account. I think, kind of from my perspective, to round off all of the points that were raised, there's also the fact that for new market makers, they really need to consider as well that there's a pretty big setup cost required to get all the systems in place to manage all the compliances and everything. So yeah, that's what makes the market making of long tail assets particularly difficult compared to the normal blue chips like Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I guess a follow-up question from that. When you before you commit to a project, right? So what would be the key metrics when you consider? So when you're evaluating a project such as a long-tailed asset, maybe.
Yeah, I'm happy to kick us off. Yeah, so kind of my view on the key metrics is really you can split them in two different kind of sections. One, I would say, would be kind of how do you measure the trust of the token, looking at things like social media channels and how many exchanges they're deployed on and how easy it is to buy and sell this asset in terms of the liquidity. And then on the other side, metrics that are specifically related to the market making side, like what are the volumes, how many holders are there, and those kind of things. I think that's how I see it, at least.
I mean, I would agree. Like it's two-way. One is you look at the project and the team itself. I mean, when we then talk about meme coin, the issue is it's not really a product. It's more like capturing the attention. And when we just look at today's people, the attention span is very short. I mean, if you look at something like Joe Biden, if Biden will be gone, the token is probably going to be closer to zero than to infinity. And so the other thing, you can look at the team. Are they like in the business to build a community around that project, or is their business much more to launch a series of new tokens? Another thing is to look at the distribution. Do you end up being in a game that they will misuse you as exit liquidity? That's something else. And then like the normal stuff. I mean, if the token is already trading on some exchanges, it's helpful. It already has some kind of established liquidity. But the problem is, if we already are on Binance, on bigger exchanges, and we already have volume, it's not really a long tail asset. So it's a lot of due diligence on the project and the ecosystem around.
Yeah, definitely. Stef, do you anything to add?
No, not per se. In the end of the day, we are entities that are, or should be, extremely good at managing risk, right? And all of the type of questions and all of the type of research that we're going to be doing are there to form a good vision on what risk is going to look like whenever we're the ones that are going to be taking, or at least making, the liquidity and being actually the opposite trade of the market. Like, you have to remember this. Like, if everybody's selling, we're the ones buying. So we inherently, we're always wrong when it comes to that. So if you don't do proper analysis on that front, first of all, you're also not going to get up into some sort of a relationship with the counterparty that makes sense from a business model perspective, right? Maturity is very much influential on that front. But you're also not going to be able to build a business. Like, we need to be able to build a business, and it starts with risk. And for that, a lot of research is needed. I think the fundamental analysis part, not even for long tail assets, but any type of asset, will become inherently more important to entities like us. I think that market makers down the line are going to evolve either into prop traders or investment banking type of institutions. And on the latter, you're going to see lots and lots of DD happening. Because that is the only thing that is going to allow you to underwrite launches and to take on risk. So expect lots of questions. It's not as maybe cool as it used to be in the past, where here's a loan and some other setup and you go. I don't think that's the future.
Yeah, I know we're hearing a lot about like risks, due diligence, and the compliance angle. And now as ever, we need to be very stringent on this. All market makers need to be on top of this. They need to be on top of the projects they're bringing to the market. If you look at it from a trading perspective, and you were touching on metrics, I think it's very important that we look at two key metrics. One is being like price dispersion, so that's the price difference between exchanges. So as soon as these projects go listings, the equilibrium price is found quickly. And the second is price volatility. So especially for long-tail assets, you don't want a day one launch with the price trading at a 40% discount from where it starts at. And this is where market making can be very key to really help support the ecosystem and the project grow on the back of that. And after that, after the initial launch, it's about bringing liquidity to the market. Because in the end, it's a very simple concept of liquidity breeding liquidity. As long as the market maker is there, bringing liquidity to the market, consumers can trade in and out of the positions, and the project can grow.
Yeah, for sure. I think.
If I can add something, I think Stef brought up a good point to think about it, because like market making, if the token gets launched the first time, it's probably like as a mental model, it's much closer to underwriting an IPO or basically running that. From a due diligence point, you talk to some other stakeholder in the ecosystem, you probably end up taking some part of on your own book than actually just the market making like we imagine it for already liquid or trading assets.
Yeah, definitely echo on that point. I think, as a market maker, sometimes when you deal with different liquidity type of assets, your model changes slightly as well, right? From a completely the agency model, sometimes you have to change it to the principal model as well. So, yeah, definitely echo with the, all the panelists on this point. So I guess the next question would be, what would you, what would be the tools you will use, and what would be some of the mechanism to use when you're actually doing market making for long-tailed assets? Steph, I think you already have a say on this.
Are you asking about our technical setup, or because I don't think we're going to be disclosing it on stage? No, but can you maybe elaborate on the tools? Or you mean like type of products that we're going to be trading, or the way we manage risk, or?
Yeah, I think any sort of like aspects you would be able to share, like in terms of the
At the end of the day, like our core expertise lies in data and in latency on digesting that data and making decisions based on that. And when it comes to these long tail assets, the big, let's say, hero of your trading operation is going to be that, right? And then based on all of that data, you're going to make decisions that allow you to either manage risk or to not manage risk. So I think that's essential. In order to help those data systems, it's always good to give solid input, and that can be either on-chain, off-chain, or actually via the conversations you're having with the counterparty. But it's a data game, and today latency is not per se. I mean, it's a common bottleneck for all, right? So I think we have not yet entered the space where people are starting to build cables under mountains like they did in the past. But the latency game is going to be essential as well, and especially when it comes to on-chain data digestion and the decisions that you make on that. I mean, we're joined here by the Wintermutes of the world. They're very good on that front for a reason, right? So that's the type of tooling that a lot of market makers will start building, because it's gonna not per se give you the alpha that everybody's looking for, right? It's gonna help you not get blown up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think we've seen this in the equity markets already, right? Instead of talking milliseconds, we're talking nanoseconds. So it's all about having the latencies in place, having the support for these projects, that you're able to really support them in bringing them to the market in the most efficient way as possible. And I think, trading aspect is very important, but on the other hand, I think it all goes back to, again, doing the DD beforehand, making sure that there's alignment on risk between project as well as market maker, and everyone has a good understanding of the whole go-to-market process.
Alan, do you want anything? Oh, hello?
Yeah, I mean, so far I definitely agree with the other panelists on this in terms of getting your information quickly and processing things and making decisions. But in terms of like other tools that market makers should be using, and not just market makers, even the general public when they're looking into meme coins, specifically from a kind of risk standpoint, probably I would say I'll just list them out: Discord, Telegram, and Twitter. Pretty much that's where you would be getting a initial sentiment, at least, of what the meme coin is and how you can start beginning to figure out the trust process.
How do you automate this stuff? Like, can I ask that question? Because
No.
I mean, you can start scraping, but that's not a sustainable model. Down the long time, people start answering or ask questions. But are we then using tools like the tie and all that kind of stuff, or do you think for the wider audience that these type of solutions or these type of setups are worthwhile for us?
For us or for them? I think it's better than nothing, because at the end of the day, we're like in the information edge game. So it's a question, data, you can also call it data, but you want to gather information as fast as possible. You want to basically evaluate them, and you want to take decision on. And I think something you probably can add on top of it, if you basically have just one client for market making, It's probably going to be a different risk profile if you have multiple one, because you can start to think about in a portfolio context, you can take into consideration correlation and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it would just generally for all of you guys out there trading, I mean, you're probably not going to have the same setup as we have. I mean, nobody of us going to disclose it, but having at least something like an RCAM or a TIE or a nonsense, some kind of information is better than just, I don't know, having nothing at all and just listening to your gut feeling.
Yeah, definitely. So I think everyone touched briefly about the latency point, and we were discussing about it just now as well. So I think we can definitely see in the market currently the DeFi trading sort of demand for the long tail assets is continuously growing. So I think it will be interesting to hear everyone's sort of experience and view on that as well. Maybe start with Ivaylo.
That's a very good question, and I don't want to say too much because it's yeah, there's secret sources involved. Let's put it that way. Yeah, actually, I'm not going to say anything. I'm sorry, guys.
How about the others? Anything to add on this front? Any sort of your personal view?
Can you maybe repeat the question, because we both.
Oh, sure. On the DeFi trading front, so like, what's your view or your experience in terms of the DeFi trading for the long tail assets?
I mean, I'm happy to take it first. I think we have seen like a shift towards more like club-based models and RFQ-based models. I mean, with the launch of Uniswap X, a lot of the majority of the volumes have moved away from these V3 concentrated liquidity pools to more these aggregators and RFQ models. Same as for the clubs. I mean, we've definitely seen a lot of volumes pick up. The likes of SynFutures, for instance, is a very good example. So yeah, we have seen market sentiment switch in that direction. For both, I would say the blue chips as well as the long tail assets.
Yeah, it allows you liquidity discovery is through on-chain and through DeFi is where it starts more often than not these days, which I think is a really great use case of DeFi as a whole. Is it the most efficient part? No, like you go from AMMs to then RFQ systems or clubs, but it typically ends up being the first step in the life cycle. And done by LPs that are either willing to take the imperma loss into one direction or look at it as marketing cost. But yeah, today that's where we see discovery happening, and that's also where on the meme coin side, because I mean, meme coins is a long tail asset. Let's put it that way, because of these typically being fully distributed, right? No specific tokenomics models around it. It ends up being preceded on AMMs from the get-go, where the creator is willing to take some sort of an impermanent loss into one direction and looks at the US dollar side of things as a marketing play. If it then ends up working, it's going to allow others to do more professional analysis on pricing and then work on centralized exchange venues or other type of decentralized, centrally limited order book systems.
Alain, anything to add?
Yeah, what you'll add, I mean, clubs are more efficient, they AMM on chain. I mean, we're finding that out. I think like everything on chain, there's like a vast treasure of information out there available for everybody. And I think that's probably going to be interesting in 10 years when we look back, how that's going to be used. I think it's still much underused. When we just look at just latency versus liquidity, I just would say if it's really like a long tail asset, I think building up the liquidity profile is going to be the bigger challenge than actually entering the latency game, because you need to have certain, let's say, liquidity profile available that you want to play the other game. It's not going to be helpful if you fast for like a 500,000 market cap coin. It's just a waste of resources.
Yeah, definitely there's a completely different sort of like spectrum, right, of liquidity when you're talking about on-chain liquidity and as well as liquidity from the central exchanges. Yeah, and I think we can change gear a little bit here. So as a market maker, we obviously see providing liquidity for the project is very important, but also another challenge is to protect market maker from the volatility, right? So, how would you see the difficulty in terms of, when you're trying to protect yourself from the trading of the long tail assets?
Okay, guys, I got this.
No secret sauce here?
No secret sauce here. I mean, it's been a reoccurring kind of topic in all of the questions so far that there's a increased level of risk when you're market making long tail assets. And I think one thing that meme coin projects can do to help us market make their tokens is be creative in the way that we set up a partnership so that we can share the risk in a more fair way, I guess. That's kind of my take on that.
I mean, I don't think volatility is per se bad. I think as me as a market maker would embrace volatility. It gives us just a broader opportunity set to trade and capture bid-ask spread. And yeah, you basically want to work, when you work with a team or a project together, you just want to be sure you're somehow aligned. And you don't work with a predatory team, you just walk away in that case. But just volatility alone is not really a problem. It's more like the illiquidity, which also leads to a certain degree to high volatility.
Ruben?
I think I completely concur. I mean, in the end, it is about managing your risks. It's about having the right framework in place. But as market makers, you embrace volatility. Like, if you don't like volatility, you really shouldn't be in the market at the moment. So, yeah, again, it comes down to the market maker. As long as it's aligned with the project, it's aware of the risks, there shouldn't be an issue on that front.
And if you look in portfolio theory, I mean, volatility is not really bad. If you have a high vol asset, you're just going to allocate less capital to it. And that's just a way to manage your risk also in that space here.
And the ultimate way of managing risk is not quoting, by the way, unless you can just go out of the market, which if you will be on the prop side of things, you do that. And typically the reason why market makers keep quoting is because they have a contractual obligation to respect SLAs, right? You're providing a service, and that's why you get an engagement, that's why you get a loan, that's why you get some sort of a possibly OTC derivative product in order to manage your risk, but that's why the definition of SLAs is I think, was also an important one, right? I mentioned earlier, everybody would love to see 1 basis point spreads. It's awesome, it's great, it's efficient, and it's all good. But you need to educate, and you need to find a pragmatic, let's say, middle ground on that front. Because SLAs are going to have a massive impact on what you can, not only if you can walk the talk, but secondly also how are you going to manage those risks accordingly. So, because the ultimate risk metric is just not quoting.
Yep. I think, from, what we just discussed, there's like a lot of takeaways in terms of how you should manage the risk under long-tail assets, as well as, do your own diligence, building the relationship with the project itself, build this trust element. So, yeah, I think probably our time is sort of running up. So, would be great, to have more sharings, with everyone in the future. So, thank you everyone for being here with us today, and yeah, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.